and welcome to the Big Apple School Podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you improve your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katja, I'm your host, and today with me,
Barbara
and
Benjamin.
Dear listeners, we're doing our best to be as useful to you as possible, and we would love to get some feedback about it. So subscribe to our pages on Apple, Yandex, Google, SoundCloud, any platform where you listen to our podcast, and let us know what you think. So rate and review our podcasts, give us stars, leave comments, questions. Feel free to send your ideas about our next episodes. It won't take much time or effort, right? But it will help us a lot. So, and now, Barbara, Ben, I haven't seen you for a long time. What's up?
It's been a few weeks. Well, a couple weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks, I guess.
I think it's been even more than that.
Oh, really?
Hasn't it?
Well, 3 weeks, perhaps.
A long time. And Barbara, I haven't seen you for so long.
I think September.
Yes.
I think so. And Benjamin, I just met for the first time
Oh my goodness.
yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh my goodness, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what have you been up to?
Well, I've been in my apartment a lot. I've been taking walks a lot. So nothing much.
So where do you like to walk the most?
Oh, well, I really love Lenina Street, around that area. It's wonderful. And then, of course, we've got some kind of dinkier areas where I get my hair cut, and it's kind of shabbied out there. But yeah, I like the walk around the theater and Lenina.
Now that you're walking, do you notice any difference in the air, compared with winter?
Yes.
I do not know about you, but I very often am unable to take off my mask outside, even if, there's no one around because it's just so dusty. So that's why I don't like spring here in Novosibirsk much.
I guess because all the dust has been trapped underneath all the snow and all of a sudden it has been released.
Yeah. But at least now we have the sunshine and some warmth.
Yes.
So, and Benjamin, what about you? What's new?
What's new? So I believe before the show we talked about my visit to the zoo.
Tell us more about it.
It was a wonderful visit. It was, it was still when the zoo was covered in snow, and saw some wolves, saw some polar bears, saw some crocodiles, monkeys. It was quite the visit.
Have you seen the penguins?
Did I see the penguins? I don't think I did see any penguins.
There are 10 of them. 10 or 15 of them? I think about 10 of them.
Because I know the zoo has 2 different parts. It has the delfinari, the dolphinarium, whatever it's called. And yeah, there's different sections.
The penguins are in the zoo.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay any kind of a separate fee to go see them. They're in the same building with the monkeys, I think.
I didn't see them. I saw ostriches. I saw some ostriches. What else did I see in the monkey building? Yeah, ostriches.
You have to go and, you have to go again and see the penguins. They're adorable. You have to go in the summer though.
And what about space? Do they have enough space?
I think so. I mean, they have, there are 2 sections that are kind of divided by some kind of tunnels for them. And I know that the zoo has spent so much money to create, the conditions that they would usually be in, which means very hot sand, or some kind of warm sand and very cold water at the same time. So, and they managed to do that. So, well, that's what I like about our zoo is that the conditions there are said to be fantastic. Animals have space, good food, love and care. Oh, that's so great. So any other places you've been to over here in Novosibirsk?
Well, I've been walking around, went around the Naberezhnaya, so by Rechnoy Vokzal, so had a few good walks there. Yeah, and I've had a good time. I've been exploring the town a lot.
That's great. All right. So, and I guess I haven't seen Barbara for so long, so I guess I've got so,
actually.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't think I have much news. I mean, I celebrated my birthday.
You do have some news. You do. Your wisdom tooth.
Well, yeah.
Tell us about the wisdom tooth.
I've mentioned it in one of the previous episodes. Yeah. So I had a serious dental surgery. So I had my wisdom tooth removed. And then at the same time, more tooth. I got it pulled out, and then I got an implant the same day. And then I had more than a week of suffering when I couldn't eat anything but purees, and soups. Yeah, oh God. That's why yesterday I actually had a little bit of a gastro tour around Novosibirsk so I could eat so much. And right after the podcast, I'm going to my favorite bakery to get some desserts. Yum.
Which bakery is that?
Biscuit House.
Oh, I don't know this one.
Oh, that's amazing. It's literally the best well, not bakery, but it is a bakery, a little bakery.
Well, so it's called a pekárnia. That's a bakery, isn't it?
Yeah, but this one is more like konditerskaya. So they don't bake bread, but they do make cheesecakes, cakes, all these things. And today and tomorrow they have a cheese fest, which means that they make desserts with cheese and not just, some simple cheese, but let's say 28 months old Parmigiano.
Oh, so aged, mature cheeses.
Yes.
Okay, can we get cheeses? Well, we can't import cheeses into Russia, can we?
No.
I don't believe so. Yeah. But,
no.
I mean, there are many good Russian cheese makers.
You can import sometimes and from some types of cheese and from some countries, but not that many. Yeah. So, in speaking of, food and everything, why don't we talk about it? That's what we're here for, So, can you tell me about your diet a little bit? So, because we know that there are so many different types of diet, like pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan. And I remember, Ben, once you mentioned the guy who only eats meat.
Oh, yeah. So, carnivore diets and fruitarian diets, which are two complete opposite extremes.
So what about you? What is your diet like?
Oh, well, I had a wonderful diet when I was in the United States. My best diet, my best meal would be this wonderful baked salmon with the fat scraped off, and this beautiful salad of spinach, and then cranberry sauce.
Oh,
the
I love
tartness of this cranberry sauce kind of cuts through the oil of the fish. And then I would usually have maybe dark chocolate soy ice cream or almond ice cream. And I had that nearly every day. That was my usual diet.
So, Barbara, are you a vegetarian?
Well, I was a vegetarian since I was 15, actually.
Wow.
And then when I got older, my chiropractor said, oh, your bones are degenerating. You got to have some protein and fish. So I started eating salmon. And then since I've been here, I haven't really been eating, I can't find good fish. And then I feel sorry for the fish that are in the tank. So I'm upset about going to the market and getting fresh fish. I just can't deal with that. So I've started to get some legumes or some what we call chickpeas, or they're also called garbanzo beans. And those are good.
Have you tried any of the smoked fishes that you see at the see at the shops here?
Yeah, I've tried the packaged fish, and I was eating that for a few months, and I'm just done with it. I just can't do that.
You're done with it.
Yeah, that's no more.
I recently tried this fish called kieta. I was looking for the English translation. I couldn't find like a normal translation for it. I think it's called dog salmon. And I tried this recently. It was actually really good. So I bought
I think if I saw the name in English, I wouldn't try it. Dog salmon.
Yeah, so maybe it's half dog, half salmon. You don't know. But it's pretty good. So, yeah.
So, wait, Barbara, so you've been a vegetarian for a very long time. Then you switched to a pescatarian diet. And now you're back to being a vegetarian.
Well, see... My daughter got me into being more vegan because she was very upset about the dairy products and how animals are treated with that. And so I've started to cut out cheeses, and I haven't had any eggs since I've been here. I've had to eat cheese because there was nothing else I could buy. But now I have not had cheese for several months. And I got really into my salads now. So I found some good lettuce, and I'm making these huge salads with olive oil and lots of garlic. So I'm eating that a lot.
So now you you have a vegan diet then.
Yes, I'm really trying to stay away from any kind of animal products.
So it's good that you're here now and not, 5 years ago, for example, because 5 years ago, it was impossible to find soy milk or almond milk. Because when I became lactose intolerant, there was a period when I couldn't eat anything dairy. So, and I tried to find soy milk and it was such a quest, such a challenge. But now it's so much easier and we have more shops where you are able to find, let's say chickpea cutlets or something like that, or, some dumplings with mushrooms inside. So they're absolutely vegan. So
it is easy because I actually found some almond milk. So I'm pouring that on some granola. So I have a little side dish that I can eat.
yeah. So, okay. Ben, what about your diet? What is it like?
I have fluctuated between many different types of diets. Recently, I've been enjoying the pelmeni quite a lot.
And recently since you came here
Since I came here, gone a bit pelmeni crazy. But previously, I have experimented with vegan diets, with vegetarian diets.
How was it?
I love fruit and I love vegetables, so it's not difficult for me to do. It's just I felt I was always really hungry afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And the pelmenis, you can't really...
Oh, Ben and his love for pelmeni.
Yeah.
It's just adorable.
But yeah,
Match made in heaven.
Exactly. But I'm not against any vegan diets. I just, everyone has their own personal needs, and I'm still trying to find out what the exact perfect diet is. I still haven't come to a conclusion.
Well, I think it changes because if you're exercising a lot, like when I was in the United States, I needed that salmon. I really needed some really good food. But when you don't exercise so much, then you kind of get out of tune with your body. You're not sure. Maybe you start eating other things that you shouldn't be eating. Yeah, and as you get older, your needs do change.
Yeah.
And also know that with age, your ability to, the enzymes, they kind of, what do they do? Not produce lactose, but what do they do with lactose? What does our body do with lactose? It kind of breaks it into some other components.
It breaks it down into...
It's like process. So when I know that with age, our ability to process lactose is getting worse. So because, technically a human being does not have any need to process lactose. Well, technically, that's why babies, they need milk. That's why they have no problem with lactose and dairy. But the older we get, the more lactose intolerant we tend to become.
Well, I guess because dairy products have growth hormones inside them, so then babies or young animals can grow. And I guess perhaps after a certain age, maybe you don't need those hormones as much anymore.
There are some hormones that they actually inject, which is not good for children. There have been studies where they've seen cheeses and milks being injected. I guess because the poor little animals are injected with hormones so they could mass produce. And this gets into the milk and the cheeses and makes children maybe bigger. So, yeah, we don't need those kind of hormones.
Yeah, we definitely don't, no. But I was talking more about natural growth hormones rather than, artificial hormones. Because, of course, we don't want artificial hormones in our food. That's not good.
So, and what other diets exist? So we have vegetarian, vegan, fruitarian, you mentioned. So does that mean that people only eat fruit and vegetables?
Yeah, strictly fruit and vegetables.
I think a fruitarian means someone just who eats fruit only.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then, okay.
And have you ever heard of it like an Aryan or something, that someone only lives on air?
How long do they do that?
Oh, well, I don't know, but I've
ask?
read these things for yogis in mountainous areas, and there's some kind of spiritual lift, and they only exist on air. You've never heard of that?
No, I think they only exist on air for a relatively short amount of time.
I don't know.
And then they move to another world.
They get a little bit of grass on the side. And just,
I think this is more of an extreme.
Yes, definitely an extreme.
Absolutely.
A spiritual diet.
And then there is, Ben, can you help me with this one again? Carnivorous diet?
Carnivorous. Yeah, carnivore diet.
Carnivore diet. So it's only meat.
Yeah, strictly meat. Yeah, strictly meat.
Now, herbivore would be both or everything. Yeah, everything. No, wait,
I know.
Well, omnivore.
Omnivore
omnivore,
is
yeah.
Like
everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Herbivore is a plant-based
Yes.
diet. Okay.
So that would include both vegetables and fruit.
Then we also have flexitarians. So it's people who generally don't eat meat or, try to cut down on it, but then occasionally they can have a little bit of it. So they have flexible diet then.
Yeah.
But they tend to lean to the plant-based food at least. So, and what about your diet? Would you say that, and do you think that your diet has all the nutrients that you need, that your body needs? So what do you think?
Well, sometimes I feel a little tired in the day, so perhaps maybe not. Maybe I need more carbs. A lot of people advise against carbs, but you need carbs to stay awake.
I would advise you, since now you live in Mother Russia in Siberia, to check your vitamin D levels.
Yeah.
So this is one big problem that a lot of people who live here have. Well, because we don't get the sunshine, usually our diet does not provide us with enough vitamin D. So a lot of people have, a shortage of it, a lack of vitamin D.
Yeah.
All right. Barbara, what about you? Do you think that your diet provides with all the...
Well, with my sedentary lifestyle now, I think I'm getting all the nutrients that I need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm really concerned about eating too much. So I will go a long time without eating. I'll just have some water and then I'll have something. And then, oh no, let's look at the clock and not eat anymore for a while.
What are your views on fasting? Because fasting is quite a popular trend.
Yeah, we were always put on fasts when we were in ballet training as teenagers. So it was part of our crazy diets. But they do say that if you fast, you can kind of clean out your system. But the important thing is how you break your fast, what you eat. Because that could be dangerous if you eat something.
Yeah, you have to slowly reintroduce
Certain things.
And then there's now this thing which is quite popular, which is interval fasting, I think. So, basically you have, depending on your lifestyle, age, habits, and everything, you have a schedule of when you fast. So let's say 18 hours of no food, then within 6 hours you're allowed to eat. So, and it's kind of like waves of time, when you can or cannot eat. So, and some people say that it helps them, to lose weight, to become healthier, but of course it's all personal,
Well, that sounds like sticking to some kind of eating schedule. And I really don't have a schedule. I eat when I can or eat when I need to. So I really don't have it. But I guess it should be scheduled to regulate your body.
While preparing for this podcast and while, thinking about diets and writing information about, nutrients and everything, I have realized how horrible my current diet is. Like, it's so bad. I try to make it better because the thing is that when I don't think, and I don't plan ahead, I tend to snack a lot. I tend to eat a lot of sweets. I have a sweet tooth. Thus, I have to visit my dentist pretty often. So then when I actually put some thinking into it, when I plan ahead, I start to, include vegetables, fruit, chickpeas, But then again, I get too busy and then I realize that I again eat too much, processed food and everything. But I don't think that my diet provides me with all the needed nutrients. I mean, have you heard this saying that we need about 5 portions of fruit per day, fruit and vegetables? So, and I have realized that I only have like my 2 or 3 portions per day.
But I don't think that food pyramid is going to suit everybody, just like you're saying, at different ages, different cycles of your life. It's just some kind of guide, maybe for the ones who are growing, the children. But, fruit is acidic, it's sugary, it can affect your teeth as well. It could bloat your stomach.
That's why they say that you also need to think when, at what time of the day, and with what food you eat fruit and veggies. So how do you combine them?
Now, when I was a teenager, we were not allowed to combine nuts with fruit. And it has something to do with they just don't mix well and they don't digest well. So you want to avoid eating nuts with liquid drinking or with fruit and vegetables.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, neither did I. I'm interested.
Well, it was
I eat a lot of fruit and nuts, so I need to.
Yeah, but see, now I don't really I don't really heed to that anymore. But as a teenager, I did.
Okay. So, and how much sugar is in your diet?
Oh, I cannot say 90%. I don't know. A lot.
In what form?
Well, the fruit, and then of course the M&Ms every day.
Really?
Every day. But I've cut down because of my teeth. I had to have a nice visit to the dentist, maybe 5 or 6 times. And so, yeah, I have to be really careful. But it's that sugar, that addiction. If you believe that it's addictive, I do.
Well, actually, since we're talking about sugar today, well, sugar, salt, and fat. So let's talk about this addiction. Do you think, why is sugar addictive? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's supposed to stimulate the euphoria a part of your brain and makes you feel ecstatic and fulfilled and satisfied and happy. And that's what we all want to be, happy. So we take those M&Ms.
Yeah. Well, what's the hormone of happiness? Dopamine. So when we eat sugar, it produces dopamine in our brain. So it's released by neurons in the system as, the same way that, the same type of happiness we get when we perform something well, some kind of a reward. And it's interesting that it has the same reaction to the body as some of the drugs. So let's say cocaine or, some other, or nicotine, they activate the same systems in our brain to produce this dopamine as sugar. And some people say that's why, sugar activates reward system in the brain. That's why it's so addictive. So we want, to feel this happiness, even if it's short term when we eat those M&Ms.
But then if our body gets accustomed to a certain level, then you have to eat more and more and more. And then it doesn't even affect you.
Yeah, we build up a tolerance.
A tolerance. And that goes with alcohol and drugs, that tolerance. So that's the danger of it.
So before we move on into talking in more detail about sugar and its effects and everything, do you know anything about the history of sugar?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, please do tell.
Well, the triangular trade during the Industrial Revolution, this happened between 15th century and the 18th century. London became a center of the Industrial Revolution. They were capable of manufacturing things, but they need raw material. So, of course, our new land before the United States was this whole mecca of raw materials, sugar, rice, or arable land that you can grow sugar and rice, precious metals, iron, gold, lumber, trees. And so, of course, how are we going to get those things cultivated and procured? Of course, African slaves. So this Industrial Revolution in London, the capabilities of making weapons, they would go down to the west coast of Africa, trade human beings for these weapons, and then send them across the Atlantic, which is called the Middle Passage. And so this is how it started, and our addiction for sugar has never really ended.
So that is more, of a recent history of sugar, I would say. The commonly known processed sugar, refined sugar. But initially, sugar, is believed to have appeared in the year 2000 BC. So, and they say that it was in the form of extraction of the juice from the sugarcane, and it all started in Polynesia. So it started in New Guinea. So in New Guinea and in Taiwan and southern China, but those were two different types of cane. So, and then from New Guinea and those parts of Taiwan and China, so it all went through the world. So somehow it got into the Arab world, from there to Portugal. Then from Portugal, it got to Brazil, from Brazil to the United States, to to those areas and to the Caribbean.
Okay, so you're talking about the trade routes around the Mediterranean. That's how it would get around there. The Silk Road from and to Asia. And then, of course, our era of discovery where we have ships going across the water.
So, yeah, we can see, the history of transport, basically.
And it really does represent money because people will buy it. And especially the elite because they could afford it.
Well, speaking of transport and sugar, in Brazil, many cars are powered by the sugar cane. I'm not sure if you know about this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's this alternative. It's been going on for many years. I think it's called álcool gas in Portuguese, which is like alcohol gas. And yeah, it's a lot of the cities smell like sugar because the cars are powered by sugar cane.
Is it a more eco-friendly way to
I guess
power
so,
cars?
but it's...
Or cheaper?
Yeah, but I don't know all the science behind it.
But you still have to consider the people who are cultivating it. These will be probably people who are very low paid in very poor conditions. So we often think of alternative ways that will be beneficial to the world. But then, how is it really procured? How is it really coming in to being?
And then it's interesting, you said, you mentioned the elite. And it's interesting that at the beginning, sugar was only for the elite. It was so expensive. Only the richest of the rich could actually buy it. And when I tried to find some information as to, where it appeared and how it spread around the world, it was interesting for me to read that there are some kind of, there is information that sugar was even existing in ancient Greece, but at that time it was seen as medication. So it was not, used as food. It was not added to food to sweeten it, but it was used solely as medication. So they said that it was good for your intestines, good for your health. So apparently in ancient Greece, they would, mix it with water. And then later, people thought of it as sweet salt. And they said, oh, it's so good for your mood and for everything. Well, little did they know about dental problems that come with it.
They didn't know. Because then when it was sent to England, the elite would have these kind of sugar parties and display these beautiful little sugar coins, so to speak. And they knew right away that it gave them good mood. And they made no connection to their bad teeth. And once it happens with your teeth, you get this toxins in your body and it affects your heart, your organs, and they actually die. You can actually die of too much sugar.
Yeah. And I was reading about the history of sugar in Russia. So, because I thought, wait, where does Russia stand in all of that, And it turned out that the first time that sugar was, imported into Russia was in the 11th, 12th century. And then only not in the 19th, but in the 18th century, Peter the Great, started to import the sugar. So, make it more common and widespread. And then in 1809, they started the production of sugar in Russia. They stopped importing. Well, not that they stopped importing.
Where was this? Around the Black Sea or? Yeah.
Well, St. Petersburg, in that area, not in the Siberian parts. So, and the production of sugar was, they started to produce the sugar from beetroot. So, and that's actually interesting because I have been thinking about the fact that when I was in the US, for example, to me, a lot of sweets, even the same sweets that I know that I used to eat in Russia, they seem to be sweeter than the ones in Russia. And I was thinking, is it because, different companies in different countries use different types of sugar? So, or maybe that's because of the corn syrup. Because, sugar can be produced out of corn. In Russia, it's mostly beetroot. So we don't have that much cane sugar or corn syrup.
Have you heard of grape sugar? You can get sugar out of grapes.
Grape sugar?
Yes, grape sugar. So I'm thinking, since we've listed those few things, there must be other fruits or products that you can get sugar from.
Well, anything you can make alcohol out of, I guess. Yeah.
Interesting. I expect, grape sugar to be way more expensive than the
I just
usual one.
remember eating it in the 1970s. You'd go to a special health food store from California. Of course, we were leaders in the health food industry.
Still are. Wow. I know about the popularity of coconut sugar nowadays because they say that it's, less harmful, it's healthier, which kind of brings the question. So do you think there are some substitutes for sugar that are healthier?
Probably not.
No, nothing like Sweet and Low and all those other chemically made things.
Yeah, I'm scared of those
No, I
things,
never.
yeah.
Have you heard about stevia?
I have heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
So, because, if you go to places that have healthy food, all that, you will see, some phrases like, oh, we don't use sugar, we use stevia, which is a natural sweetener. So when it's extracted from the leaves of a shrub, of some kind of a shrub, and they say that it's healthier because it has lower, what is it,
Not glucose,
like
glycogen.
glycemic index or something like
Yeah.
glucose index, but I'm not sure.
Okay,
It's still
so what you're talking about is then not necessarily where the sugar comes from, but how it's produced. Because white sugar, if it's produced and they take out all the nutrients, then it's not going to be as beneficial to us. It's the way they produce it.
Oh, you mean like refined sugars?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. If it's refined, they've taken out the nutrients. But as long as they keep the nutrients in, it's supposed to be good. But sugar is sugar and still going to affect your teeth.
Oh yeah. No matter what kind of form it takes, what kind of a sweetener that is. Yes, because sugar, I mean, what is it? It's still this, sucrose. It consists of fructose and glucose. So no matter what kind of a sweetener that is, whether that's natural or artificial sweetener, it still is going to be, divided into glucose and fructose. It's just fructose is, so glucose is what is basically harmful for us. So, and let's say fruit and other, natural things like vegetables, they have a higher level of fructose, which makes them less damaging to the body. Whereas refined sugars and processed sugars, the end result, let's say, this is what has a higher level of glucose, which is actually more harmful to the body than fructose.
Well, it's harmful for children to be raised on sugar because there have been studies where it'll affect their moods and they can't concentrate. And when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about being a child and really literally being raised on sugar. I ate for breakfast the sugar pops, Lucky Charms.
Yeah, Lucky Charms. Yeah, I remember those.
And maybe even put sugar on it. After school, I'd come home and have a sugar sandwich. 2 pieces of white bread, you put sugar on one and then put the other one on top and slap it together as a sandwich.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, so
that's so true. It doesn't matter where you grew and what year you grew up, you were growing up. Every child's diet is so full of sugar.
Yeah. And have you ever heard of Tang? Tang came out as an orange powder and as a replacement for orange juice. And you add water to it. And it was marketed as the drink of choice for the astronauts, our big space race between the USSR and the United States. And our astronauts took up Tang into their capsule. And so we felt patriotic, I guess, to have our Tang.
I recently heard that in those Lucky Charms, in types, different cereals, one single, Lucky Charm or one single, this piece of cereal can contain up to 1 teaspoon of sugar in it. Yeah. When I was a kid, one of my favorite things was to take a teaspoon of sugar and just heat it up. Above open fire, above gas. So it would melt into this
caramelize.
Yes. And then, just eat it as like a lollipop. Yeah. So it's
my teeth hurt just thinking about that.
And I wanted to say that there's one thing that I absolutely love about the US and that Russia needs to do. In the US, on every single thing you buy in a supermarket, you can see the nutrition, information, how much sugar it has, how much sodium it has. Because in Russia, you can only see fat, carbs, and protein amount, but nothing about sugar.
This is regulated by law. By law, they have to have that.
Because, very often I had this urge to have some orange juice or something like that. I was, craving some orange juice. But I took a bottle, which was, 10 ounces bottle. And I saw sugar, 55 grams. And I was just thinking, wait, it's 10 ounces. It's like 300 milliliters. How come that in this little bottle, there are 60 grams of sugar? That's unbelievable. And once I started to look at that, this iced tea, Nestea, so, like flavored iced tea, I used to love it. Then I found out that one bottle has 75 grams of sugar. 75! How come? A little can of Coca Cola, 33 grams of sugar.
Oh, with Coca Cola, have you heard that you can clean a car carburetor with a can of Coke?
Oh, yeah.
You can clean stuff because it's so, acidic or...
Yes.
strong.
So carbonated and so
carbonated.
Sugary.
Yeah.
I saw some videos of people clean toilets with that.
Oh.
I don't drink fizzy drinks or soft drinks anymore.
No,
they're so bad for you.
No.
I mean, a good rule of thumb is if you would pour it on your skin and you can't really wash it off, you shouldn't be consuming it. Because if you think about what your intestines are going to look like. So if you pour some cola on your arm on a hot sunny day, you're going to need to wash it off with some water.
And probably some soap as well because it's so sticky.
Oh, well, it is sticky. Sometimes we would use Coke on ballet floors. If the floor,
oh my goodness,
yeah, if the floor
really?
is too slippery, you take a little bit of Coca Cola or Pepsi if you're from the West Coast and put it on the floor and you won't slip.
Oh, I didn't know Pepsi was a West Coast thing.
Yes.
I didn't realize
so
that.
I'm from California, so it's Pepsi all the way. And then when I moved to the South, it's Coca Cola, because we have the big...
Barbara, you have just, explained
I had no idea.
so much because, when when I was going out with somebody in Massachusetts, we would go to a place and, for example, my friend would order some Coke and she was told once that we don't have Coke, we have Pepsi. And she's like,
is it okay?
No.
Yeah, is it
She's like, oh,
okay?
no, thank you. I'm like, but wait, what's the difference?
No
between
difference.
Oh my goodness. That's why she was all about, no, thank you.
I mean, I know, for instance, California has In-N-Out burgers, which don't exist. Well, I think there is one in Texas, but that's just like a one-off thing.
Yeah, there are some chains like Carl's Jr. You might find a few there and just more on the West Coast.
Oh, it's like Dunkin' Donuts is nowhere to be found, in the West. I remember only finding one in DC. In Massachusetts, there are several thousand of them. Like mass people are crazy about Dunkin'.
I was so surprised to see a Carl's Jr. by, was it Первомайская площадь or Square, sorry.
Uh-huh.
And speaking of tea and the West Coast and the South, in California, I didn't really drink tea much, but going into the South, they drink sweet tea, and it is so sweet. And the first time I had it, I drank it and I go, oh, what is in this tea? And I knew I was really Southern because I stayed there for 29 years. When I went up on a trip to a northern state, Ohio, stopped at a Denny's, and I said, oh, I ordered a sweet tea. And they really looked down their long nose at me. We don't have sweet tea up here. Like, oh, I'm Southern. I drink sweet tea.
But you would have thought that, because Denny's is a chain everywhere, you would have thought that.
But it's very regional. And it must be because of our sugar economy, based on the slavery days, the days of slavery, where in South Carolina and Florida, there were the sugarcane fields. And so we're, I guess, proud of this sugar in the South, but it's a big deal in the South.
Wow. I did not know that. I remember you mentioning sweet tea in one of the episodes when we were talking about something.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
Wow. And have you ever heard about such a thing as bliss point?
No.
So bliss point is basically when it comes to ingredients like sugar or salt. So it's the maximum amount of sugar that, still makes the product, the food, desirable and tasty. And once you, overstep this boundary, you reach the level and you exceed it, it becomes, disgustingly sweet. So, and it's interesting because I read about it in one of the books that I was reading about food. And I thought, and I still think that this bliss point would be different than for different nations in different countries and maybe even different regions. Because I have noticed that, again, the same thing, let's say, Kit Kat bars or something like that would have a totally different taste in Russia and in the US. And I've generally noticed that in the US, a lot of cookies, chocolate and other things are sweeter, way sweeter than in Russia. So my teeth would hurt after even one bite.
It's true because we have the Coca Cola in Atlanta, Georgia, established there. And you can go on a tour and you'll have this big machine that produces the Coca Cola from each country. And one time I did take a little taste of Russian Coca Cola. And it was just like, oh my goodness, what are they drinking out there? And so from every country, it tastes differently. You get these little sample cups. Like, oh, from India. Oh, that's different.
That's so
Yeah, we
interesting.
Americans have a different taste.
So this bliss point would be different for different countries, which is why, even the same brand would have a totally different taste in different parts of the world.
I wonder what the difference between British cola and American
I
cola
wonder.
is. Yeah. I mean, I don't drink it anymore, but I wonder,
We should, conduct an experiment.
Yeah, you'd have to get some real English tea or real English Coke. And then I'd get some American Coke or American tea. And then we'll have a taste test.
That could be a good idea for a podcast in the future, actually have a...
We had an episode about snacks where two people tried Russian snacks, on air. That was so fun. So that would be, cool to do something like that. The only problem is that nobody's coming from Britain anytime soon. We have Stephen and John stuck there.
Well, they can do that via satellite or something. And we can conduct it.
Nice idea. But they would have, to have some kind of Russian thing or American food.
Right. So, of course, we would have some kind of courier to message.
There are Russian shops in London. There's this little one called...
But I'm wondering still, I guess if it's pure Russian, but don't they adapt or change, alter their recipe for English eaters or American eaters?
It's like, when we talk about food and people say, like, I like Chinese food, but I like American Chinese food. Or as they say, like, white Chinese food. So things like that have been adapted.
I mean, there's not many Russian restaurants in London. I mean, import shops. So, for instance, you would see pelmeni and, Alyona bars.
Mm-hmm. So I think these things are important, Okay. And why is sugar bad? So what kind of negative consequences can it have on our health?
Well, obviously you have to... I'm not an expert. I'm not a nutritionist, but... I believe you have to separate refined sugar from naturally occurring sugars.
Let's talk about refined sugars, yes.
Well, I mean, because that's usually packed with other ingredients, other additives, which are terrible. I mean, I'm not so sure that natural sugars, I mean, of course they can cause problems, but animals like gorillas and bears, they go crazy for sugar and they seem to be okay. Whereas refined sugars can cause problems because of the additives.
Like what?
Well, for instance, your teeth. Teeth and perhaps digestion problems. Perhaps, like I was saying previously, if you spilt cola on your arm, surely something's going to affect your digestive tract.
Okay, so what about these so-called energy drinks? And it's filled with what? Sugar? Like Red Bull? What is that thing that makes people want to drink these energy drinks?
Sugar.
And
it all comes down to sugar.
And studies have shown that it gives heart attacks. I mean, I saw my neighbor she was in her 70s and she was drinking a Red Bull. Betty, don't drink that Red Bull. It's going to give you a heart attack.
You know what? I've recently seen a can rather, in a supermarket, which was a combination of an energy drink. I think it was Red Bull and espresso. So it was coffee and an energy drink. That sounds like a heart attack to me.
Yeah, that's a suicide pact with you.
Right.
It really.
It is, yeah.
Or if the other day I was taking a walk and I was standing on a corner and I saw this girl, junior high age, maybe 12 or 13, and she was drinking one of those Red Bulls or things that are similar. And I thought, oh my God, this young thing where your body is getting regulated by this foreign entity and you're getting used to it. So how does it affect your learning, your brain, your development?
They wanted to pass a law, to only sell those to people of 16 and older, but I'm not sure they did. Maybe they did. I don't know. I think so. Okay, so obviously there are so many negative consequences or, effects that sugar can have on our health. So dental cavities, problems with heart, mood sometimes.
Your blood pressure. And your face will get hot and you'll shake because you got your sugar high.
Yeah, kidneys as well, probably.
Kidneys. And they even say that there is a connection between overconsumption of sugar and diabetes, type 2 diabetes.
Definitely. Right. Yes.
Of course, there are many other factors, including your overall diet, your lifestyle, genetics, stress level that, affect that and, make you get diabetes and not get diabetes type 2. But yes, I actually have an example of my own. So in 2014, when I just graduated from university. I started to work at a secondary school, which was horrible. It was a very stressful time, a lot of kids, a lot of problems. Really, I hated my job. At the same time, I was getting, another degree. And I started to eat so much sugar. Like, do you know those Cinnabon rolls?
Oh, yeah.
So I would eat like 3 per day. I would drink like 4 cups of coffee per day with, several shots of syrup in it. So that was bad. I think I gained like 17 kilos at that time within a year. So, and after that, after 1 year, I decided that I'd had enough. I quit my job. I went to a doctor, to check my health. And she said, do you know that you are in pre-diabetes state? Like you have to stop eating, all the sugar. You have to start exercising, get rid of the stress, try to. So, and I think I kind of woke up at that moment and realized how much sugar I had been eating all this year. How many, Cinnabon rolls, chocolate, drinks, sugary drinks, and coffee, which, let's be fair, did not even taste like coffee because it has so much syrup in it.
Your body was very tolerant of this because I know from my own experience in ballet, I could not have any chocolate because it would make me shake. And the little bit that I have would just be a tiny little square. Now I can shove it in, eat the whole bag. It doesn't affect me one bit. And that's the danger part because that's on the other flip side of where you have to control your life and how you cannot allow your life to be so, make you so stressed that you go to the sugar.
And actually, speaking of tolerance, so last summer, I was a little bit ashamed of it, but last summer we had a day when we ate, my friend and I, we just ate so many things, we went for drinks, which were also, quite sugary because alcohol has a lot of sugar in it. Then we went to the bakery, ate something else. By the nighttime, I just felt so terrible. I had to spend, the night with a bucket in my arms. I was hugging the bucket and puking all night long because I had way too much sugar. So now if I eat, too many sweet things, I feel so bad. So that's why I have to, control myself.
Well, that's good because then your body is telling you to stop.
Yes. So that's why now I know that, for example, I can't drink champagne much because it's way too sweet. So when I want, have a glass of something that would be dry wine and not, this oversweet drinks. And in general, I try to cut down on sugar, to choose more quality maybe, over the quantity. So I would rather go to this good bakery and have a little piece of a cake, which would be more filling than the chocolate bars. Because I have noticed that I can eat a lot of chocolate bars and I don't feel full. I'll just be eating.
I mean, do you like fruit much or?
I do, but every time I think, I have apples in my fridge, but I have to go wash them, cut them. It's so much easier, to grab a chocolate bar.
I guess, yeah.
And
usually you should treat fruit like methadone to heroin.
I thought you would say, you should treat your body as a temple.
Well, you should, because you understand what I mean. So methadone to heroin, your fruits to your sugar addiction.
I remember when we were talking about snacks in one of the podcast episodes, we were talking about, all these chocolate bars and chips, and we discussed that it's just easier to grab, a chocolate bar if you're going somewhere because you don't need, to wash it and cut it and whatever. So sometimes, it's the availability and the easiness of getting, these sweet things.
Okay, so that's marketing too.
Oh, yes.
That's a huge thing. You make, it's easy, it's convenient, throw it in the kids' lunch boxes. And it's just like those little fruit boxes with the straws and all these little packaged things for kids' lunches.
Actually, so I would like to tell a little bit more about the book that I was reading, which is called Salt, Sugar, and Fat. And that's where I got the idea for the episode, actually. So it's the book by Michael Moss, and it was recently translated into Russian like several years ago, whereas it came in the US at the beginning of the 2000s. And this was one of the points there. So he described the lunch boxes, and the Lunchables, I think they're called. And he described what was inside, how it's all processed. And I was horrified. Like, oh my goodness, do you really get that for children as a lunch? But then I remembered my school years when my mom would give me money, to get something for lunch. And I would just buy, candies, chocolate and everything. Which is why now at the age of 28, I have to get an implant. Yeah. Don't be like me.
Yeah.
Take care of your teeth.
Really? Oh, not like you, but like me as well. Yes, I'm guilty of all of that
so
as well.
do you believe in such a thing as sugar withdrawal?
Oh, yes, I think so. Have you ever had sugar withdrawal?
I don't think I have ever had, just because I have never been, long enough without sugar. Only once I had to go 1 month without any kind of sugar. And that was the moment when I realized how much sugar is in everything. Bread, sauces, ketchup, every single thing we eat has sugar. Because I had a terrible food poisoning. Like, it was really bad. And after
food poisoning just from eating too much sugar, or food poisoning
just
from bad food?
From bad food.
Yeah.
So I think I ate something, spoiled or something like that. And after that, I could not eat anything sugary. And that was the moment when I became lactose intolerant. So I couldn't eat anything. So for me, it was, everything was plain, without salt, something like that. But I did not have any kind of sugar withdrawals, symptoms. But maybe that's because, I was generally going through a hard time, in terms of food.
I think it would depend on what you're going through. If you've already made your decision that you're going to stop eating sugar and you're filling your life with all the positive things in your life, then it's not so bad. But if you're going through stress and you're relying on sugar to get through the stress, and then you said, I'm going to stop eating sugar, you can't
I think
do it.
it also depends, whether you have to restrict yourself, or whether it's, some conditions maybe, when you have some kind of a health problem or something like that. So yeah, because if you say, starting with tomorrow, I'm eating no sugar. No, you're very likely to fail then.
But on the other hand, you may realize how good you feel without having all that sugar. So I've gone through that as well and go, oh, wow, I feel so much better. How could I have done that to myself?
You know what I noticed when I went 1 month without sugar? That everything started to taste differently, brighter maybe. So I have realized that usual things were so much tastier than they used to be. Because sugar, I think it affects our taste buds as well. So, and that's why after that, when I ate something sweet, I had a feeling that it was way too sweet, too much sugar in it. Then I came back to what I had been before.
That's what we do. We revert back.
Yeah. Oh, that's sad. So, and what about salt? So we've talked about sugar, but what about salt? How much salt is in your diet? And
Well, I guess everyone needs a certain level of salts because obviously we're made up. Well, we need salts, the electrolytes in salts. I'm not a nutritionist, but yeah, we do need a certain level of salt. But then again, you do have to be careful of how much you can consume.
Yeah, can it be as addictive as sugar?
well, I think it's not as addictive as sugar, but at the same time, it still makes food more desirable, maybe. But you said that we have to be careful with salt. Why? So what can overconsumption of salt lead to?
Well, I guess dehydration.
High blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The shakes. Because I've had that, yeah.
So kidney stones, I think. So
Yeah.
huge, because, the saltier the food, the more stress it is, the more work it is for the kidneys. So thus, if you eat 3 packs of chips per day, every day, your kidneys are not going to handle that well, most likely.
Now, I don't buy any sugar, any salt. So I don't have a package of salt and I don't put any salt on my food, but I'll use the garlic. And this garlic is such a great flavoring.
And I was, so that there's this kind of a limit. So the scientists say that the level of sodium, salt sodium, that we should have per day, maximum should be 2,500 milligrams. So, which is like the healthy norm. If you eat, less than that, perfect. But that's the max you should have per day. And it turns out that 90% of Americans, 90%, just think about it, averagely consume 4,000 milligrams of sodium per day. And, again, when I was reading this book and after reading this book, I started to pay attention. I became really, attentive to this nutrition information. And again, what I like about the US is that they put the sodium amount. And I thought, okay, can I actually do that with 2,500, milligram of sodium? I could not, because I realized, I got one thing, even like, chicken broth. And I saw the amount of sodium. I'm like, okay, so that's basically it. That's the only thing I can have today if I want to, limit my sodium level to 2,500 milligram per day. So it's horrifying how much sodium there is in everything.
That's why I don't feel like I need to put any salt on anything. There's probably some salt in there. If you're eating something packaged, like a can or of something.
Mm-hmm. And, again, I read about the consequences of overconsumption of salt, and we've mentioned the dehydration, the kidney diseases, and it turned out that too much sodium can also increase the risk of stroke, heart failure, osteoporosis, stomach cancer even. But of course, we're talking about overconsumption of it. So when we eat too much salt, so too many salty things. And what about, do you know anything about the types of salt? Have you seen, the variety of salt in the spice aisle?
Yeah, but I think, there's Himalayan salts.
Yeah, the pink Himalayan salt.
Oh, sea salt.
Sea salt.
Table salt.
Well, I guess rock salt. Is that sea salt?
Yeah.
Maybe it's the same thing.
There's also kosher.
Yeah, kosher. Yeah, Jewish salt. Yeah.
Do you know any difference between them? Do you think it's just the marketing?
I don't know.
Probably.
I have some information for you then, because I did a little, research on that, because I thought that's what I actually always think when I have to buy salt. And I think, is there really any difference? Because Himalayan salt is so expensive. It's like 10 times more expensive than the table salt. So there has to be some kind of a difference, right? Although every time it makes me funny, when they say, this Himalayan salt was, taken from the caves. It's more than 2,000 years old. And then lower, you see expiration date, like January 2022. You're like, right. So it's been, okay for 2,000 years, but it expires on, come on. But yeah, so it turns out that different types of salt differ in taste, in texture, in mineral and sodium content. So in sea salt, for example, So it's depending on the source and, what kind of a seed was taken from. So it usually contains various trace minerals like potassium, iron, and zinc. But, and I remember, Barbara, you and I and Aluana talked about it in our eco-friendliness podcast, that nowadays the humanity faces a huge problem of plastic in the ocean. And that's why sea salt contains microplastic. Because it's taken from the sea. Sea now contains microplastics. Thus, people say that it's better to avoid using sea salt. So then Himalayan salt. So it comes from the salt mine in Pakistan. So the second largest salt mine in the world. So, and it contains iron oxide. So basically it's rust, which is exactly what makes it pink. So it's just like any other salt. It just has a little bit of rust in it. And usually they say that it has small amounts of calcium, potassium, so which makes it slightly lower in sodium than regular table salt. But then again, rust. I don't know about you, but it makes me, a little bit.
Okay, well, that reminds me of what's on a package of salt, ionized salt. That's really important for us to have iron. What is it called?
Ionized, yeah.
Yeah, we're supposed to have that in our bodies. So now that I don't put any salt on my food, maybe I'm lacking in iodine or something.
I think, well, that's why a lot of people, they take iodine in pills or something like that. Yeah, it's so difficult.
So now I have to go look up iodine. Yeah, I've got to look up iodine because I don't think I have any.
Then we have kosher salt, which has larger, flake sizes. So, and they say it's preferable. Well, that's why. Because it's larger, more chefs use it just because it's easier to pick up with your fingers, and kind of spread over food and sprinkle over food. But it has a little bit of different texture. So, and it tends to be less salty than regular table salt. So that's why if you want to, replace it, you shouldn't do it with like 1-to-1 ratio, but you should put a little bit of more kosher salt if you want to, switch to it. So yeah, apparently it's not that simple. And I honestly, before that, I used to think that it's nothing but marketing. It turns out that no.
It's just rust.
It's just rust and microplastic. Like, wow, what's your diet like? You're like, microplastic, rust, things like that.
Okay, they just found snowing plastic in Siberia. So whatever it's landing on, we're taking that into.
Plastic in snow?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How?
Yeah, in Tomsk, the scientists were discovering this and looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Oy. It's bad, really bad. All right, and salt, sugar, and there's the third element that, powers the earth, which is fat. So, and remember I told you about the book, Salt, Sugar, and Fat. Really, I advise everyone to read it. It's eye-opening. So, and reread it probably, because when I read it the first time, I tried to change my diet and I did for some time. Now I'm back to eating horribly, so maybe I should reread it. But I remember what was shocking is that, so this book has 3 chapters, each devoted to each element. So salt, sugar, and fat. We've talked about, salt, we've talked about sugar, and what surprised me and shocked me about fat is that we have in our body the limit for sugar, right? If we eat too much, we feel bad. We have a limit for salt. If we eat too much, we can feel bad. But our bodies do not have a built-in limit for fat. So which means that we have taste buds for salt and sugar, but our taste buds do not react to fat. We can eat, nothing stops us basically from eating too much fat. And that's what we do. And averagely, everyone eats 50% more fat than we should per day, every single day, because we don't feel it. So, and if you think about any kind of food you like, we usually like the texture, we like how filling that is, and that's all because of, well, fat. And one more thing that this book, kind of says is that none of this is food industry's fault. It's all our fault. Because, we are responsible that, all these aisles in the supermarket are filled with this kind of crappy products, full of sodium and sugar because we like it. I mean, let's be fair, we all do. And I remember reading about one of the experiment, what's the company? I think it was Kraft. So the company that produces, the chicken broths, the
Philadelphia cheese, yeah.
The Philadelphia cheese, yes. It's actually like a huge conglomerate of different companies.
Yeah, Kraft is huge, yeah.
I think it's like nearly everything that is sold in the US supermarkets.
Yeah, Nestle, Kraft, yeah.
Campbell, I think, is also theirs. So anyway, and they at some point decided to, be responsible and lower the level of sodium in their soups. In the result, the consumers started complaining, and they said, your soups are not as tasty as they used to be, because people were not used to the low sodium amounts. So basically, the demand and supply rule. So we want lower sodium, but at the same time, we don't want lower sodium. We want less sugar, but at the same time, we don't want less sugar because then it's all bland. The problem. So, and I have a question. So if I asked you, what would be your main takeaway from our today's talk? Do you think you're going to change something about your diet, about how much salt or sugar or fat you consume?
I guess the takeaway is move to Japan or move to Italy and eat Italian or Japanese food.
Oh, wait a minute. That soy sauce has a lot of salt in it.
Well, I guess it does. But the Japanese do have...
And what about the oil? The Korean food is so oily.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to look up iodine, see if I have some kind of deficiency.
So which countries live the longest? I mean, I will have the highest life expectancy. I guess Japan.
Don't you remember what we talked about?
Yeah, France.
Well, America, right?
No,
we don't.
I'm afraid if we look at the countries and the regions that have the highest amount of centenarians, it's Okinawa in Japan, not the whole of Japan, but Okinawa, which is an island. Greece.
That's the olive oil.
So Mediterranean diet, it actually has a lot of fruit, vegetables, but not much salt, nothing, extra fat.
Well, just like I said, olive oil with the garlic. Then you don't need anything else on there.
So what else? Some parts of Puerto Rico, so that are said to have the highest amount of centenarians. So, yeah, maybe not. Well, Italy would be good, Still Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of fat in their foods, but...
Yes, damn it. So, way too much fat, actually. Yeah. There's no place, it seems. So we are responsible for our diet no matter where we are then. All right, Barbara, what would be your takeaway, you said?
Yeah, I'm going to look up iodine. I'm going to still maybe cut the M&Ms to my half amount. I'm going to continue with my olive oil and garlic. I think that's what really saves my life. I think that's really healthy.
Also sounds very tasty.
Yeah.
You can't, mess anything up with garlic. I wonder what my takeaway would be. I think the main one is that I definitely need to do something about my diet. But on the other hand, do I want to? Yeah, I got to think about it. But I definitely should reread this book. So it's Salt, Sugar, and Fat by Michael Moss. Make sure to read it. It's fantastic. I also remember, by the way, how shocked I was about cheese production in the US when I was reading about it in the book. It turned out that there is overproduction of cheese. So very often it's just stored in warehouses and the country doesn't know what to do with it because they produce way too much. Because they have to do something with all the fat they get from the milk, because most people now prefer low-fat milk and non-fat milk. So, and they make cheese with the extra fat, and then they have too much cheese. Yeah. This concludes today's edition of Weird Facts You Didn't Need to Know, but here we are. Yeah.
I think there's an expression for it, mountains of cheese, rivers of milk. I heard that somewhere. I think that's probably in reference to the situation in America. I'm not sure.
Oh, I've never heard about this phrase.
Very pithy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, dear listeners, that was the Big Apple School podcast. And today, Barbara, Ben, and I discussed salt, sugar, a little bit about fat, and we talked about our diets and what diet, well, let's say the features of each diet. So thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you're always welcome to our website, which is bigappleschool.com/podcast. So you can find full scripts of each episode there and you can read while listening. Cool, right? Also, if you want to get more content which will help you learn English, you can follow us on the social media such as Instagram, BK, YouTube, Telegram, and so on. Just search our name, which is again, Big Apple School. And the information on each of the social media is different. So you won't be reading the same stuff everywhere. Nah. So that was Katja, and my guests for today were
Barbara
and
Benjamin.
Stay tuned and we'll see you around.